So this video, of course, is about Mythic Shiva, guys, and I have shown this already in my where to get mythic characters video. If you haven't seen that, go and check it out. It is very useful to know where you can get mythic characters once Conquest goes live. There are multiple sources, and Prestige is one of those. If you are Prestige 13 currently, or Prestige 12, you could be bumped up to Prestige 13 once the new update comes out, and that will get you Gold Mythic Shiva as a character day one of the Conquest update. Very exciting. She is available in other places. Again, check out that video to see where. But this is the first and easiest way to come by this character if you are a veteran player. But now on to the video to see how exciting Shiva is herself. Hello survivors, and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video. And in this video we're going to be taking a first look at Shiva, who is going to be getting a mythic character straight off the bat with the Conquest update launch. As we can see on the right hand side, visually she is a kind of mix of the past Shivas we have had when it comes to Armored Shiva, I think, who was a 5-star Shiva, and then we had like the War Paint Shiva, who was the first 6-star Shiva, who was a strong character. We have a bit of mix between those couple of characters, and I like it a lot. Obviously, Shiva is one of the few animal characters that we can get, you know, consistently in the game. She is comic canon, so she's always going to be around. She's one of a lot of people's favorite characters, obviously. Tigers, obviously it's going to be just cool. On the left hand side, we see a bit more in her brutal self, and it looks like she has got some like zombie guts on her back, whether it is to make her seem like she's camouflaged or if it's because she's absolutely just been destroying some walkers. Who knows? Who knows? She has got different bits and pieces around her as well, as you can see on the left. I think that's just like a stop sign on the side of her on that left-hand side. And we can see this sort of iconography or visuals where she's got the feathers on her ear. She still has got chains around her. You know, she still does allow, like, I think it's Zeke to sort of guide her around. She's okay with that, you know. Not everybody, I'm sure. But if we look at her stats as a tier 5 gold mythic character, at level 600, she has got 14,247 attack, 13,311 defense, and 13,225 HP. She is a fast character, and I think this is only the second fast Shiva we've had. The majority of them have been strong, and we have had that random tough character in there too. She is considered a damage dealer, which pretty much all the Shivas have been considered, maybe except maybe Christmas Shiva, I think, was a tank. She is a mythic character, and she is a member of the kingdom when it comes to her allegiance, which obviously makes a lot of sense. So if we go across to the right hand side and check out her adrenaline rush, it is called Cut to the Bone. It is a 66 AP cost rush, so reasonably fast in the mythic era. 66 AP seems to be quite, you know, the standard speed. Deal 300% damage to one enemy. That enemy and one other gets 30% of this character's attack in bleed damage for 3 turns. This character gets 25% bonus HP. So obviously 3 things going on here. A bit of self-sustain at the end is nice, but the damage initially is quite okay. 300% damage is okay, but the bleed is very interesting. The enemy that she attacks plus one other get 30% of her attack stat in bleed damage for 3 turns. She's got 14,000 base, so she's going to be dealing around about 4 to 4,500 damage in bleed with this rush. Obviously that can be brought up with mods, weapons, leader skills, so this is going to be very interesting. So if a target does survive that initial hit, then they're going to have to deal with the bleed damage afterwards. The secondary bleed is obviously just a little bit of a bonus on top, so another character is going to take quite a bit of damage because of that. Like I said at the beginning with the little bit of sustain at the end, it is a nice little bonus on top, but it doesn't stop things like bleed itself or burn. It is mainly to stop percentage attack damage or basic attack damage or signature moves from actually being able to hit her main HP. You should see bonus HP as more of a shield against percentage damage. Okay, so we are on the rush turn, and we are going to select Princess here. We have got the boosts from the leader, because Negan is an attack leader, so I'll be getting attack boost there. I'll also be getting attack boost from the fact that I have got a strong attacks weapon on the team. I think it's Aaron holding that, so she is getting a 30% attack boost. So we're going to also do trait damage, so this should actually do quite a lot of damage against Princess. It's going to do 11,000 damage, very nice. but she's also got 7,000 bleed on her. Because of all the attack bonuses that Shiva has got, that's going to be 30% of her attack stat right now. And you can see that the other character that got bleed was the top right hand corner. Erica has 7,000 bleed as well. So obviously, pretty nice amount of damage output. I wanted to see, how much damage she could do from a 100%, HP character, and that definitely can be amplified. She was unmodded. She didn't have an offensive weapon, so Shiva is going to be really, really good. The downside is if you do take out the character with her rush, it's only going to be a 1 character bleed. It isn't going to still bleed 2 characters, but at least you've taken someone out at that point. If you team her up with other specialists, let's say someone like Alpha, who does have crosshairs on her specialist skill, you could potentially decap someone with that rush. So that is a nice little combo. They're both fast characters, can get their rushes off nice and quick, and they could work together pretty well. So we'll go across to her signature move, and it is called Raking Claws. It has got an initial cooldown of turn 1, cooldown of 1 turn, number of uses 999, attack an enemy for 100% damage. That enemy gets 15% of this character's attack in bleed damage for 2 turns. So obviously the percentage damage off base is not going to be huge. It's basically a basic attack that can crit just like a normal basic attack can do. So no real difference there. It's the bleed that is going to be a nice little bonus. The fact that you can do this turn 1 as well. It's half as powerful bleed as her rush is, 15% instead of 30%. It will only go to 1 enemy, but there can be that extremely tanky enemy on the defense team, and of course, bleed ignores defense stats. All that bleed really takes care of is HP, and it also ignores bonus HP, so it definitely has its benefits. There are going to be characters in the game which are going to stack HP, no doubt. We have seen 1 or 2 characters already that look like stacking HP as tanks is the way to go, and that'll be a bit harder for bleed to take on. But any characters that are stacking defense is where bleed really, really shines. Okay, so we can just do this straight away. I have got a 20% weapon in her hand. She has also got the 30% attack stat boost from a strong attacks weapon, and this is going to make the bleed obviously a little bit higher. She is also going to have quite a lot of AP after doing this because of that 20% weapon, and you can see it did crit. We hit for 6,000 damage, very high amounts of damage. That was half the amount that her rush hit for, but it's 1/3 of the base damage, but it's because it can crit. Now, you can see also that if I did have some 8% weapons in this team, I could potentially have a natural turn 2 rush, or I could potentially get a command turn 1 rush once an actual command comes into the Mythic era. So a lot of damage output potential on that first turn. If you did obviously get that rush off first turn, you'd have a 15% bleed from her signature move. You'd have 230% bleeds from her rush. You'd also have a 300% targeted hit and a 100% targeted hit that could potentially crit, could potentially double attack with the right weapon in her hands, could potentially do a lot of damage. Even if you were to naturally rush turn 2, that is still going to be huge. You would obviously need quite a few 8% weapons on that team as well, and you're basically building your team around Shiva at that point. But there are other characters that can also have 20% weapons and, buy into that 8% sort of build. Characters like Alpha, like we talked about before, and these 2 characters seem like they're going to have quite good synergy. You could start the attack with Alpha first, get some crosshairs on a character, follow up with Shiva, and then you could take out a character turn 1 and they'd be obviously decapped. Very nice combo. However, we'll see what her passives are going to bring to the table. It is Shiva's Mythic Abilities. These are her passives, of course. She is a damage dealer, so she will get that 10% increase in basic attack damage. That will actually work with her signature move. That will work with her basic attacks. The second part is Daze Resistance, a 40% chance to resist Daze base. This does stack with mods, so if you did have a 60% or higher Daze Resistance, she would not be able to have her signature move disabled. Daze stops active skills from working and signature moves. They have the same icon, as you can see. That is what Daze is there to do. It's to stop people from using those abilities. Her signatures move is extremely powerful. And while on an attack team, I think it's going to be really strong, on a defense team, it could also be used. So characters will be around in the game that have Daze on their own signature moves, their own weapons potentially, passives, whatever, and Shiva has a chance to either just 40% of the time resist it, or if you do stack up with the mods, she'll be immune. Now, she does only have one other passive ability, where a lot of characters have two more, but this one is extremely powerful. When attacking, 50% chance for all burn and bleed effects on the enemy team to be extended by 2 turns. This is obviously crazy because it's every single source of bleed and burn. That means she can be comboed with characters like Abraham and still be extremely effective in sort of that burn bleed team. Previously in the past, we've mainly had bleed teams. Burn has had some, feature in these bleed teams sometimes. But this looks like, you're building that long-term bleed burn bonus team, and it could be extremely effective. They work with mods, rushes, signature moves, any sort of source of bleed and burn that's already on the enemy. Shiva has a chance of extending it by 2 turns. Okay, so I have tested this quite a bit, and it doesn't seem to be working as I would have assumed, but I'll just show you how it is working. If I attack with some burn and bleed mods, I've got a burn mod on Wayland. We're going to get burn Princess down the bottom, and we've got some bleed mods on Negan and Aaron, and you can see there's some bleed on Abraham up the top. If I was to target Princess here, I can do my Shiva basic attack. It has got a 50% chance of extending all bleed and burn effects, is how I read it, by 2 turns. If I do it, it says enemy duration increased. You can see it's gone up to 6 turns, but we can see the bleed on Abraham is still at 2. The way it's reading is if all burn and bleed on all enemies on the enemy team, all burn and bleed on all enemies on the enemy team will be extended by 2 turns. But it seems to only be the target. That is still powerful, but it isn't as powerful as I initially thought. And just to reread it, just to make sure I wasn't wrong here, when attacking, 50% chance for all burn and bleed effects on the enemy team to be extended by 2 turns. It still reads as if it's all burn and bleed effects on every enemy on the enemy team, not just the actual specific target. So this could potentially work how it is, written here in the passive, or it could be potentially rewritten in the passive to work how it's working in game. It's hard to say which one is the correct way, but I would assume it's going to be how it works in game is actually the correct way, but I'm not 100% certain myself. It's still extremely powerful if it is the way it works in game. 50% chance to extend any damage over time by 2 turns is crazy, especially when you consider that Shiva also has a specialist skill that doubles the amount of damage output that certain damage over time effects can actually do. And that is, of course, Lacerator. We've seen a Lacerator Shiva in the past, and it was actually a fast character before. Whenever this character attacks a character suffering from bleeding, the damage of that bleeding effect is doubled. Target can only be lacerated once per turn. One of the biggest issues with bleed was you could get the number really, really high, but eventually the bleed would just run out. With her passive, you could be extending it by 2 turns every time as well, and then obviously just keep doubling, and it doesn't really matter at that point how much HP a character's got. You could eventually take them out. Very, very nice when it comes to just stacking up huge amounts of bleed damage. So this time around, I'm going to do my signature move with Shiva on turn 1. We'll just defend with everybody else because we have got burn and bleed sources here. We don't want to do that. And as you can see right now, Princess down the bottom has got 3,700 bleed on her. We can do a basic attack. We can potentially increase the duration of it, but we are going to definitely double it to 7,400. Now, Princess is not a very defensive character, but it doesn't really matter who it would go against because it doesn't matter about a character's defense stats when it comes to how much damage they're going to take. All it matters about is their HP. Now, we have seen some characters that are going to have high HP, the likes of Darius, Governor. These characters are definitely going to have high HP numbers, so huge amounts of bleed are going to work great against them. Now, just to test out as well if her Lacerator works with her signature move, I'll put some bleed on Abraham up the top with my mods. You can see it's 1,200. If it doesn't work, it should go to about 4,700 bleed. But if it does work, it should go to 5,900. So we'll see if her signature move can actually lacerate. Oh, it goes up to 6,100. There we go. So yes, the answer is her signature move itself can lacerate. It isn't just her basic attacks. So a lot of you already know how Lacerator works, so not really a big deal here, but it's going to be really effective because we're just going to see much higher bleed numbers than we ever did before. Bleed mods only do last for 1 turn, but because you can just get such higher numbers, you stack up multiple bleed mods from multiple characters, turn 1, then do the signature move of Shiva to add more bleed and double it. I don't think there are too many characters that are going to be able to, you know, withstand that. And you can definitely build a nice team around Shiva just going off on turn 1. And this is where we can go across to her weapon, which is Shiva's Barbed Claws. It has got a 25% attack base, a medium bonus to AP when attacking. In the 3rd slot, when being attacked, a better chance to cause 2% of this character's attack stat in bleed damage for 4 turns to the enemy. Now, I would normally say that isn't too bad, but because it's when being attacked rather than when attacking, I do primarily see Shiva as an offensive character. So I would say you probably want to have something in her hands that's going to bolster her attack somehow. You know, extra attack stats. You can give her a 3rd slot that gives her a personal attack buff, which will obviously enhance her bleed as well. So I don't like this 3rd slot. And of course, I don't really like the base stats on this weapon just because it's only 25% attack. If you've got a nice offensive weapon already geared up, you can get things going much quicker. You can use a 20% AP weapon to self as well to just get your rush off as quickly as possible. And as Shiva is a 66 AP character, she's going to have at least one source of AP to get a natural turn 3 rush. Otherwise, she's going to be sitting there at 65. You can obviously just have one 8% weapon and that'll get things done, but a 20% is also great. And long term, that sort of weapon's going to work really well in her hands just because we are potentially going to get, you know, commands, more 8% weapons if you've got more 8% weapons. And like I said, natural turn 2 rush, command turn 1 rush, just seems just perfect for Shiva's kit from what I'm seeing. So that is Shiva, and I am very happy to obviously bring this character to you because she is one of my favorite characters in The Walking Dead, but definitely one of my favorite characters from playing, you know, years of RTS. Always Shiva's been a great character to use, a lot of fun, generally quite an exciting kit, and I don't think this sort of strays too far away from that. Very exciting kit, lots of potential, does require a little bit of, you know, building, but I think you can build a team around Shiva pretty well. And as I showed in the intro, you will be able to get her as part of the prestige rewards. I know myself, I will be able to get her day 1 just based on how the prestige recalculations are going to come in, and I'm extremely happy about that. She should be a lot of fun. I'll have to try and get my hands on a second one because she's definitely one of the characters that I'd want to take to tier 5 as soon as possible. But do give me your thoughts on Shiva as a mythic character. Is she as exciting as you hoped? Have you got any plans for Shiva if you are going to get her from Prestige? Let me know in the comments down below. That is going to be the end of this video, guys. If it was useful for you, please hit the like button. If you are new to my channel, please think about hitting subscribe. Thank you very much to all my subscribers already. Just make sure you have got the notification bell turned on so you know when my live streams go live, when my videos are released. But that is the end of this one today, guys. I want to thank you very much for tuning in. And as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.